Welcome back to another episode of the Skateboard Ranch, a series where you can follow my adventure as I set out to build the ultimate campground and DIY skate park paradise. First of all, I would like to welcome all the new subscribers that helped the channel reach the 1,000 subscriber milestone. It's a pretty humble number by YouTube standard, but like they say, you gotta start somewhere. And at the same time, I would like to thank every one of you that decided to support the channel by clicking the subscribe button. It takes a lot of time and energy to make those episodes. So for me, every one of those subscriptions is a badge of honor, and it's telling me that I'm doing something right. And with that out of the way, in today's episode, after so much time spent on the house and on the land, we're finally entering the skateboard phase of the Skateboard Ranch. At the end of the last episode, I had just finished clearing all the trees for the ramp area. It was a good start, but there was still a lot to be done. So I jumped on the tractor and started removing all the stumps and the layer of organic material to get to solid ground. After my experience clearing up the work zone in the previous episode, I knew it wasn't gonna be easy. The stumps were bigger and there was a lot more of them. But I was confident that if I was patient and I went at it one bucket at a time, the old Massey Ferguson would be up for the task. It took me a few days of relentless back and forth, but I was finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. The ground was now free of stumps and roots, and it was ready to be topped off with a nice layer of sand. And at the same time, this would be the ultimate test for my trail and my newly installed culvert pipe. I was a bit on edge when that truck loaded with 16 tons of sand went over it, but the pipe passed the test with flying colors. I now had the assurance that I would be able to get a concrete truck all the way to the ramp. Now it was just a matter of spreading that sand around and I would finally be able to start working on the actual ramp. And it's pretty much at that point that life threw a curveball at me that I really wasn't expecting. My girlfriend announced to me that she wasn't happy anymore and that she was leaving. Like, it was a total surprise for me. I never saw it coming. I questioned myself if I should include this or not in the video, but when I started this series, I said I would document like the ups and downs of this whole adventure, and this was definitely a down point. Without going to the details, let's just say that I took it pretty hard. My motivation was down the drain. And on top of the emotional burden, like, I had to readjust my budget. There was no way I could justify having two vehicles, for example. So I had to make the tough decision of selling the truck. Even though it was really practical, I figured I can do pretty much everything with the car and the trailer. Even though it was a hard blow, there was no way I was going to give up on my dream. So I decided to pick myself up and focus on the next step to achieve it. And that was building the ramp before winter. So I started by putting the design I had in mind on paper. I went at it the old school way, doing my drawing to scale with only a ruler and a compass. I settled on a filler-free, freestanding design. 3 feet high, 20 feet wide, and with a radius of 68 inches. And from those rudimentary sketches, I was able to estimate the amount of building material I was gonna need and got them delivered a few days later. With the price of lumber literally skyrocketing because of the lingering pandemic, my goal is to build the transition one after the other and reuse most of the formwork for the second wall once the first one is poured. I started with the basics and prep a whole lot of wooden stakes. You never have too many stakes for this kind of undertaking. That's when my friend Oliviero showed up to help me out for a few days. After riding his bike 150k to get here, this guy's a real trooper. It was now time to scale up my drawings and cut one of the most important part of the build, the transition. Determining the right radius for the transition was a constant source of internal debate. I wanted something not too steep but not too flat either, something that seasoned skater and beginners alike can enjoy. I know it's pretty much impossible to please everyone, and you even run the risk of ending up with something that nobody likes. But after comparing the numbers of many existing ramp and skate features, I think I found a good middle ground, settling at a radius of 68 inches. Now it was just a matter of cutting the transition and we would finally be able to start putting everything in place. So me and Oliviero loaded up the transition and the wooden stakes and we headed out to install the first forms. It was a bit tricky at first, but we managed to level out everything and included a 2% slope so that the water can drain easily from the flat section. The next day, more of my friends showed up to give a hand and we were really able to kick it into high gear. It can be a bit counterintuitive to build forms for concrete. You always have to take into account something that's not there. But my friend Bert, who is a carpenter by trade, understood right away what I had in mind. And thanks to him, we made a whole lot of progress that day. With most of the form in place, I secured everything down with more wooden stakes and carried on with the next step of the build. So I dug out the first footing for the support column and I got 2 more to go. Later on today I'm supposed to receive a load of gravel and tomorrow I'm going to rent a vibrating plate to compact everything, make sure that nothing moves. So gotta keep going. With the forms for the footing in place, it was now time to build the support structure for the deck. There's gonna be close to 2 cubic meters of concrete sitting on that deck. I might be over engineering this, but one thing's for sure, I don't want it to collapse, so better be safe than sorry. Now I just had to figure out a way to lift this in place by myself. So I picked it up one side at a time, letting it rest on temporary support until I was able to lift it up in its final resting place. With the support structure where it needed to be, I just needed to add the wooden post that would be holding everything up. It was now time to test the integrity of my structure, with a tried and trusted method that have stood the test of time. Officially approved. With that out of the way, it was time to jump in the next phase of the build. Another unexpected consequence of the pandemic, on top of the price of lumber, was the rarity of concrete bags. All the hardware stores around were backordered. I had to drive almost an hour to be able to snatch the last few they had in stock. At least I don't have to go too far to get some water to mix my concrete. It might not be as practical as having running water in a hose, but at least I don't have to haul it all the way from the house. It's been a while since I had the chance to play with concrete, but this is just a little hors d'oeuvre before I can tackle the main course. At first I was thinking of pouring everything one shot, but I figured it would be much easier to install the sonotubes if I poured the footing first. Once that concrete is set, I'm going to be able to install the tubes, finish the rebar, and start working on the coping. One done, just 2 more to go. To prepare the coping for the pour, I needed to learn a new skill. So, like always, turned to YouTube for some more knowledge, then did a couple of test welds. They might not be pretty, but they're pretty solid. At that point, it was just a matter of doing the same thing 20 more times. With the coping in place, the first wall is pretty much ready to go. So as soon as this video is online tomorrow morning, Thursday, October 1st, I'm heading out there to do the final touches and prepare for the first concrete pour of the Skateboard Ranch, Friday, October 2nd. This will basically give me a month to tear down the forms, move them to the other side, do the second wall, and then pour the flat. Ultimately, just before Halloween for our Halloween session. Fingers crossed. Since I started this whole adventure, many people have asked me if they could donate to help the project get off the ground. But I didn't think it was appropriate to accept donation until I was really building some skate features. Guess what? This time has finally come. So I created a GoFundMe campaign for phase 1 of the construction. All the proceeds will go directly in building material and concrete, and if there's any left over, they will be used to build a snake run connecting to the ramp and going through the woods. If you've been following this series since the beginning, you know that I'm putting my heart and soul into this project, so any donation will be greatly appreciated. And if you would like to do so, the link will be in the description down below. With that said, I gotta finish editing this video and get prepared for the first concrete pour of the Skateboard Ranch. So, like always, if you like what you've seen, don't be shy, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you don't want to miss the next episode. And if you would like some live update, you can also follow the ranch on Facebook and Instagram. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon for another episode of the Skateboard Ranch.